The lights on the descent cone through water that feels older than memory. Each meter down seems to thicken the silence until the wreck of the ship resolves from shadow into ruin. A cathedral of iron and coral, its skeleton spread across the sea floor. For years, divers have mapped the familiar ground. Promenades turned to reef, the grand staircase collapsed like a closed mouth. Tonight, the team moves with a different intent, following thin rumors in old ship diagrams and a stray line in a steward's diary that hinted at a service corridor few had noted. Their descent is careful, almost reverent. No one speaks above the hiss of the ROV thrusters and the radios that stitch the submersible's mind to the surface. At first, the site offers only the language of rust and geometry. A bent support beam. Here a fold of decking there, but the camera finds a seam in the plating. A narrow corridor that terminates in a door whose emblem is half swallowed by mineral growth. A faint red cross appears if you squint. It is small, anonymous, but it is enough. The team holds its breath in the cold control room as the manipulator nudges the latch. Metal groans, sediment exhales, and a plume rises like a ghost made visible. For a few heartbeats, the world is white. Then the particles settle, and the beam reveals a room that has not been touched by living hands for more than a century. A hospital, folded into the ship's ribs and preserved in a hush of silt. The first sweep of light reveals beds, rows of iron frames aligned with a precision that suggests order rather than chaos. Mattresses are gone, but the springs remain, their coils turned to coral lace. Cabinets with glass doors stand semi-open, their interior shelves crowded with bottles, tins, and clipped bandage rolls. Surgical trays rest on tables, arranged with surgeon's economy. A stack of clamps, a line of scalpels, a metal syringe dulled by salt. Everything is coated in the same palette of rust, green film, and pearlized salt, but the composition is uncanny. The instruments lie as though waiting for the hands that last used them to return and finish a procedure. The scene hums with the echo of human urgency. A diver's light lingers over a ledger propped against a shelf. Its cover is softened by water. The pages have fused into a stupor. Yet in areas where the ink resisted, short notations remain. Patient initials, treatments, a date that every historian will instantly recognize. More than any artifact, the ledger is a voice. The last entry trails off mid-line. A blot of ink spreads like a stain of panic. The divers do not speak into the radio because the moment feels private. This is not a museum object to be brandished, but a record that still remembers the people who touched it. The team splits its attention between documentation and restraint. High-resolution cameras sweep the space, while 3D laser scanners paint a digital twin in the surface lab. Every angle is recorded before any decision is made to remove even the smallest item. The ethics here are raw and immediate. This is a site of loss for which descendants still grieve. To take something up is to relocate a fragment of someone's life. To leave it is to keep memory where waves have placed it. The project's conservator, speaking later on the deck, will describe nights of argument in low voices. We asked ourselves if we were rescuing history or committing theft from the sea. In a shallow cabinet, the ROV's light reveals rows of glass vials sealed with cork and wax. Some contain residues that glitter in the beam like miniature constellations. The team sends samples to a shipboard lab, where technicians in temperature-controlled stations run preliminary analyses. The results are surprising and instructive. Traces of ethanol in one vial, compounds consistent with early antiseptics in another. Chemical signatures tell of medical practice at the edge of modernity, a world where ether and early antiseptics crossed paths with the rigidities of Edwardian hospital routine. Such details make the hospital more than an archaeological curiosity. They make it a portal into the practice of medicine at a moment when a century's faith in progress met a single catastrophic night. One of the most chilling discoveries is a pair of surgical gloves. Their rubber stiffened, but their form discernible. They are folded upon a tray as if someone removed them in haste. Nearby, a stethoscope drifts like a fossilized loop, its tubing brittle yet recognizably complete. The instruments become avatars for individuals who once practiced in the room. Doctors, surgeons, nurses, with names that echo faintly in crew lists and attestation documents. The conservator will later find initials faintly scratched into a scalpel handle. Archival sleuthing links them to a doctor recorded on the ship's manifest. The personal and the procedural entangle, producing a moral clarity that is hard to look away from. The discovery is also biological. Small communities have colonized the room. Tiny anemones flap from the window frames, brittle stars cling to the undersides of beds, and a patient of the sea, a slender nocturnal fish, patrols the low shadows. Marine biologists on the surface note how the wreck has become an emergent habitat, with microenvironments forming in pockets of preserved structure. In the hospital's outlying corridors, the interplay of organic colonization and inorganic preservation is especially vivid. Where a jar has sealed, interior contents can remain undisturbed. Where packaging has breached, biofilms bloom and corrosion accelerates. The living wreck is not static. It tells a story in two languages at once, yet the living presence complicates human plans. On one dive, an ROV's manipulator edges toward a cabinet to extract a ledger. A congregating cluster of brittle starfish unnerves the pilot. The creatures are small, but their numbers and placement create a web of life that the team has vowed not to dismantle lightly. They retreat, and the idea of retrieval is deferred to later deliberation. The decision-making is careful because it must account for both scientific value and ecological impact. Interventions are never straightforward. When an object is returned to the light, it will arrive with microbial passengers and salt-etched patina that require specialized care. Conservation in the modern sense is not restoration to some imagined pristine state, but rather a stewardship that honors the artifact's journey. When items are eventually selected for careful lifting, the procedures look less like treasure hunting and more like medical extraction. Cradles and soft slings are fashioned. Boxes are lined with damp gauze to keep the items gently humid. The recovered ledger, for instance, is placed immediately into a desalination bath that will slowly leach away salt without cracking the swollen pages. Conservators work slowly, sometimes inches per hour, monitoring pH and fiber tension. It is delicate, almost surgical, and the irony is not lost on the team.